I was born September 18th, 1992. My mom had a C-section because the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. And 9 months later, I was diagnosed with meningitis, and the medication they needed to provide me was going to either make me deaf, blind, or both. I got blessed, and I'm only deaf out of my right ear. So that provided some challenges growing up, whether that was pronouncing certain syllables, or I used to stutter a lot growing up, and all of that led to me being teased and made fun of from my peers, from my stepfather. And so it was a constant reminder of how I was different. And at such a young age, I didn't understand how to process that. So I internalized it. I turned to drugs. I mean, I smoked my first cigarette at 10. First time I drank was 12 years old. And this was all trying to just mask how I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. September of 2022, I got my first charge, which was a DUI. And at the time I felt ashamed, I felt embarrassed, I felt just disgusted with myself. It wasn't just a DUI because I was swerving, driving down the street. I actually hit another vehicle, and by the grace of God, that person is alive and I'm alive. But I just felt awful. But I kept praying for this person. I kept praying for him because I felt awful. And I prayed for grace and mercy from this person for putting them in the situation. And as I'm praying, I just kept receiving blessings in different areas of my life, and I didn't understand why I was receiving these blessings. I felt like I wasn't worthy of receiving blessings after what I just did. And after 3 months of just blessings on top of blessings, I spoke to my wife and we came to an agreement that we should go back to church. And that's when I attended NewStory, Christmas of 2022. I felt like I was going into a genuine place. I felt like it was between the message that Pastor Tom was preaching and the sense of community I felt walking into the church and leaving the church. I came here and people were talking to each other, kids were playing with each other. It actually felt like a community. It actually felt like everyone here had love in their hearts. And I never felt that going to church. After going to NewStory every weekend since December of 2022, as a result of my DUI case, I was sentenced to 150 days in Ventura County Jail. After I was sentenced, I applied to be on house arrest and I was approved. So for 74 days, I was on house arrest. I could only go from my house to work, from work back to my house. So it was weird. For 74 days, I just could not wait to go back to NewStory. I went from not thinking about church to not even wanting to go to church to craving the feeling of going back to church, of wanting to be around the like-minded people. In 74 days, I just didn't feel the same. It didn't feel right not going back to church and serving. And especially because volunteering at NewStory, for me, is a way to give back. Surviving that 74 days, which I didn't know until I started my Rooted, right, was that I was living in a place of gratitude. I was grateful I was not in jail. I was grateful that I was alive. I was grateful that I had someone like Mingyu who would text me, hey, how are you feeling? How is everything going? I understood that going to NewStory provided me with a new sense of family. And then once I started my Rooted class, I realized living in that place of gratitude is what helped me go through. I wasn't thinking negatively. I didn't have my ruminating thoughts. It was all thanking the Lord for the blessing that I received. It almost felt like the first day of school. I was excited. I was like, Sunday's coming up. I get to go back. And walking into church, I felt free again. It's weird to say I felt free walking into a place, not walking out of a place. It felt like I was back at home. NewStory, I feel like it's a perfect example of how a church and the church community should be, because I've seen every example of how it should not be. So my plans for 2024, my prayers is to get baptized, to fully give myself to the Lord. I was baptized when I was younger, but I didn't have an understanding of what that meant or what that entailed. Now that I'm older and I have a new relationship with God, I understand how special it is, how much of an honor it is, and how I'm willing to take that next step for myself.